Tongeren, French, Tongres, TG, German. Tongeren is the oldest town in Belgium, as the only Roman administrative capital within the country's borders. The city is a member of the most ancient European towns network. History. Adjuatica Tongeren. The Romans referred to Tongeren as Adjuatica Tongeren or Adjuatica Tongeren, and it was the capital of the large Roman province of Civitas Tongeren, an area which covered modern Belgian Limburg, and at least parts of all the areas around it. Before the Roman conquests, this area was inhabited by the group of Belgic tribes known as the Germanici. Specifically, the Eburones were the largest of these tribes and the one living around Tongeren. Caesar referred to the fort of the Eburones as Adjuatica, and this has led to a widely accepted proposal that this can be equated to Tongeren. There are counter-arguments that the word Adjuatica was probably a general word for a fort in this region, meaning that there might have been more places with the same name, and that Tongeren shows no signs of pre-Roman occupation, nor the hilly terrain described by Caesar. There was also a distinct tribe in the area known as the Adjuatici. On the other hand, it has the same name and function as a local capital, and is in generally the right area. If it is not Tongeren itself, the Adjuatica of the Eburones might be the ancient fortification of Seestit in nearby Reims. They destroyed the legion that had demanded the right to winter among them in 54 BCE. Caesar reported that he sold the Adjuatici into slavery, and annihilated the name of the Eburones, many of whom, however, he reported having fled successfully, including Ambiorix, the leader of the revolt. Instead of risking Roman lives to pursue them, he invited tribes from over the Rhine, such as the Sigambri, to come and plunder. This backfired when Eburones pointed out to the Sigambri that the Romans had all the booty at Adjuatica, and were the more attractive target. The Tungri, not mentioned by Caesar, came to dominate this area in the Roman era, and are the reason for the name of the modern name Tongeren. Tacitus says that Tungri was a new name for the original tribes who had previously been called the Germani. But many modern writers believe that the Gallo-Roman population of the area contained a significant amount of more recent Germanic immigrants from across the Rhine. Located on the important road linking Cologne to Bavaria via the Relay of Liberties, and surrounded by the fertile lands of the Hesse region, Roman Tongeren quickly became one of the largest Gallo-Roman administrative and military towns in the 1st century. It suffered from a destructive fire during the Batavian siege in 70 CE, which was part of the Batavian Revolt. In the 2nd century, it erected a defensive wall, portions of which can still be seen today. Typical Roman buildings were built in town, while villas and mound graves dotted the surrounding area. In 358 CE in Tongeren, the future Emperor Julian met a delegation of Salian Franks who had recently settled in Toxandria, to the north of Tongeren. They wanted peace but spoke as if the ground they had seized were rightfully their own. Julian gave ambiguous replies and then after the meetings sent a surprise attack along the Maas River, and they met him with entreaties rather than with resistance. He received the submission of them and their children. They became increasingly important after this time. Zosimus reports that Julian used them as part of his forces in fights against other Germanic tribes. Middle Ages. Already in the 4th century, just as the Salian Franks were settling to the north, the city became the center of a Christian diocese under the influence of Saint Servatius, Bishop of Tongeren, who died in 384 CE. In the meantime, the Franks to the north and east were pagan, and so many areas had to be reconverted over the course of the following centuries, with several missionaries becoming martyrs. The seat of the Tongeren bishopric, however, eventually moved to nearby Maastricht, after Saint Servatius was buried near the Roman town there. Much later, Liege became the seat of what would become the Roman Catholic Diocese of Liege, the church equivalent to the Civitas Tongeren. This was the resting place of Saint Lambert of Maastricht, one of the last missionaries in the area, who died about 700 CE. Adjuatica Tongeren may have been destroyed by the Huns in 451 CE. Tongeren therefore lost some importance during this period. Waves of Germanic settlers and invaders changed the area significantly. The Merovingian period between the 5th and the 8th century is not well documented. The building of a new church and the foundation of a chapter of canons took place in Carolingian times, at the very place where the old bishops' houses stood, and where the basilica still stands today. The construction of the current basilica started at the beginning of the 13th century in the prevalent Gothic style of that period. Other buildings were added to the religious core of the city, including new commercial areas, hospitals and artisans' quarters. The 13th century also saw the building of the medieval defensive wall, several new churches and cloisters, and the beguinage. The city became one of the bonus villes of the Prince-Bishopric of Liege. From 17th century until contemporary age in 1677, the city was burned almost entirely by Louis XIV's troops, a catastrophe from which Tongeren never completely recovered. The rebirth of the city dates from after 1830. Tongeren is currently the judicial capital of the province of Belgian-Limburg. Main sites: the Beguinage, founded in 1257, listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1998. Its enclosure wall was destroyed in the 19th century. It separated the beguinage from the rest of the city and thus guaranteed peace and quiet for the small religion-inspired community. In the 17th century the beguinage counted some 300 beguines. It was also able to survive the 1677 fire that destroyed most of the city. The Tongeren Basilica, built in Gothic style in the 13th century, where recent excavations have produced some of the richest archaeological finds in Flanders. Archaeological excavations have proven the presence of an edifice here starting from the 4th century, while a Carolingian prayer house existed here in the 9th century. The building of the choir of the present basilica began in 1240. Nave, transepts and side chapels were added between the 13th and 15th century. The original Romanesque tower was replaced by the present, 64 meters tall Gothic tower from 1442 until 1541. The basilica's interior is home to the statue of Our Lady of Tongeren, erected in 1475. The treasury is housed in the former hall of the chapter and comprises one of the richest collections of religious art in Belgium. Church of St. Catherine, built in Gothic style in 1294 but modified later in different styles. Works of art include the 1711 pulpit by Robrecht Verburg, the main altarpiece by Gaspard de Craye and a sculpture of the Suffering Christ, donated by the beginner Anna de Floes. The Gallo-Roman Museum, which houses Celtic gold, Roman glassware, Merovingian filigree work, and a Roman dodecahedron, an unusual Gallo-Roman object found during excavations. The original Roman wall, dating from the 2nd century, still visible for more than 1,500 meters. Some of the medieval defensive towers, also still visible today. Statue of Ambiorix, erected in 1866. Modern art in Tongeren. Pumpkeskel. The dodecahedron. The statue of Ambiorix at the Tongeren Great Market. Tongeren City Hall. Part of the Roman city wall. Events. The Kroningsfeesten are organized every 7 years in commemoration of the crowning of the miraculous statue of the Blessed Virgin Mary by Bishop Dutroux in 1890. This religious procession, one of the largest and most impressive in Belgium, took place for the 17th time in 2009. A well-attended antiques fair takes place every Sunday. Sports. Women's volleyball club Datovok Tongeren plays at the highest level of the Belgian League pyramid. Tongeren's best-known soccer club is KSK Tongeren. Famous inhabitants. Ancient times Ambiorix, prince of the Eburones and rebel leader against the Roman invaders. Although his statue stands on the central square of Tongeren, it is unknown where he lived exactly, and Julius Caesar's commentary Ida Bello Gallico is the only source to mention him. Saint Servatius, Bishop of Tongeren, introduced Christianity in the Netherlands. Saint Helier, ascetic hermit and patron saint of Jersey. Radulf of River, historian and liturgist. Modern times Honoré Gabriel Riqueta, Comte de Mirabeau, French politician. Valentinus Paci, Roman Catholic beatified priest, also known as Het Heilig Paterke van Hasselt. Philippe Boesmans, composer. Robert Kayide, co-inventor of the World Wide Web, together with Tim Berners-Lee. Patrick Jewell, politician, former minister-president of Flanders, and mayor. Wilfried Nelissen, road racing cyclist. Jeff Villiers, Zoon van Snoek, songwriter, musician. International relations. Twin towns, sister cities. Tongeren is twinned with. It is also a partner city of Rome, Italy. Other relations. Most ancient European towns network.